Okay, everybody, just here on our Canvas page. My name is Mr. Efron. I'll be your instructor for our Chem 3 class here for the spring 2025. It is. I just want to kind of poke around here, the Canvas site, to get you familiar with where you can find all the important links and information that you're going to need for this semester. So really in our Canvas site, there's only a few spots that's quite important. Obviously here, announcements section. Obviously the announcements here is where you'll see obviously any announcement that I put out. It's a really important place. Keep checking. You should also usually get a notification. If you haven't done so already, you should hopefully have the Canvas app perhaps on your phone. That way you could always get those kind of notifications when any type of announcement or anything changes. First announcement up here, obviously some important information about our current semester. So if you haven't read that announcement, make sure that you do take some time and look it over. And if you have any questions, make sure that you do ask. After that, we have our syllabus sort of section, and here's really just basic information about the course. Pretty much the stuff you'll find in the class schedule. You'll also find obviously the days and times, contact here for your instructor, which would be me, and important dates, dropping dates, adding dates, and also our final exam date. There will also be a link in here shortly where you could actually download the syllabus and look at the syllabus as well. After that, pretty much everything else is going to be here in the module section. And the module section is pretty much broken up into two parts. The top part is really the lecture part. So under this kind of header right here, you'll find anything that really involves the lecture portion of the class. We'll come back to that in just a second. And then towards the bottom, after all the lecture stuff here, you will find everything that really pertains to the other part of the class, which is the lab part. So right here, lab information can be found down here. So everything past this point, pretty much going to be lab material. Everything towards the top here, the module section, going to be about lecture. So let's talk a little about it. Here's a kind of a welcome to Chem 3 module. Again, shortly, there will be the syllabus located here in this module where you can, again, click on it, download it, read it, whatever you want to do, put it on the refrigerator. You can find that information there as well. There will also be a syllabus quiz that will be up there as well that you'll need to take during the first week. Again, it kind of goes over the important information about the syllabus. So make sure you do read the syllabus. We may not spend a lot of time in class going over it, as we'll go over some parts here, hopefully in this video, maybe in their video as well. But make sure you do that, and you'll have to take that. Again, syllabus quiz that will be up here as well. Some instructions about Adobe Scan. There will be some assignments that will need to be turned in as a PDF file up to Canvas. You can use Adobe Scan. You don't have to. You can use any other sort of program that will, in most cases, people will use some type of phone program that will turn their pictures into a PDF file that will need to be uploaded to Canvas. It does need to be a PDF file. If it is something you're going to upload to Canvas, it cannot just be pictures. Periodic table, since it's a chemistry class, I guess that's good to have if you need one. Office hours, there will be, again, shortly here under in this module, a link that shows pretty much all the office hours availability. We will probably have some Zoom office hours as well. That will just be open and drop in if you have questions and stuff like that. So the link and everything will be here in this module very shortly. This is our Cengage sort of registration links. So for this particular class, you will have two access codes and two sort of online homework type products that you will need to do. And they're two separate sort of online activities. One is an OWL online access code. OWL online is basically like textbook homework type problems. So our homework will be done online through the OWL V2 program. You will have a link there, and you will need to register through Canvas, and that will put you in the correct course and all that. There is no course code or anything like that. You'll go through the links that you'll find here, and that will then register you into the right course using your access code. So you'll have one for basically like online textbook homework, which is referred to as OWL. The second access code you will have is Lab Pre-Skills, and Lab Pre-Skills is also an online sort of assignment. That online assignment is for the laboratory portion of the course, and that will contain also through Cengage online questions that are like pre-lab questions. And these are typically questions that you'll need to go and assignments that you'll need to complete, usually due the day before the lab that you physically perform. So 2 different access codes, 2 different Cengage products that you need for this class, 2 online products that you need for this class. One basically textbook homework known as ALV2. Second, basically laboratory pre-lab questions for each of the experiments that we do, or a majority of the experiments that we do. And that also is through Cengage. So sometimes people get confused that, there's more than one. So there is more than one, 2 different things, one for homework, one for the lab part, basically one for lecture, one for lab, online pre-lab. And we'll take a look at a couple of those guys in just a second. On the top part here for our lecture, it's broken up by kind of exams and weeks. So first 4 weeks or so, tentatively speaking, will be exam 1 material. And here are the lecture notes that you can print out. You could use on a tablet, whatever you like to do. These are the PDF files for those lecture notes. If we just kind of click on one here and kind of take a look at it here, we can see you have basically all the slides. They pretty much have almost everything filled in on them. The few things that they don't have filled in on them are typically examples, as we'll work them out during class and stuff like that. So if you want to use these to take notes, you can. If you don't want to use those and just take regular notes on paper, you could do that as well. But they're all up there, and all the chapters pertaining to exam 1 lecture notes are found here. So exam 1 will cover chapters 1, 2, 3, and 10. And we'll cover those, first 4 weeks or so, that we will cover those chapters. Now, for each of those chapters, there is again OWL homework that you need to do, which is like out of the textbook. But once again, this is going to be done through the Cengage site. So once you register for Cengage once through Canvas, you can actually go to each individual assignment through these links. You could also just click off to Cengage through Canvas, and it'll probably take you to a dashboard where you can, start whatever assignment you want to do or work on whatever assignment you want to do. So for example, here, if we click on homework 2, you will have a link right here, gives you the due date and time. By the way, the Cengage assignments, the latest that you could do on a Cengage assignment is 11:55 p.m. So that's why it's not like 11:59 p.m. 11:55 p.m. is the latest that you could do. So be careful on those. It's not like 11:59 is the ending. So you'll click this link and it will take you right to the assignment. I think I got that here. So for example, it'll take you up here to this assignment. Chapter 2 is ready to do, and you basically can start the assignment. I think it will let me do it. There it is, I think. There we go. So as you can see here, you got a bunch of questions. Depending on the chapter, maybe more, maybe less questions. There may be multiple part type questions. You can work on this, come back to it. You don't need to finish it all in one sitting. You can continue your progress. It's important to make sure you submit your answer, submit the assignment when you're all done. I would highly recommend on a lot of problems that you work it out on paper with a pen, pencil, calculator, like you would be doing it on an exam or quiz, not just click around to try to get the homework done. Other thing I would recommend is not waiting to the last minute to start these. If you wait to the last minute to start these, you probably won't finish. So it's really important to make sure you keep on track with this. You're doing them as we go through the chapters. You should be working on the homework. If you wait to the last minute, these will not be for any circumstance extended, whatever the reason is. So don't wait till the last minute. Don't even send me the email of I had computer problems or something like that. So these are up all for the entire semester right now. They're not due until basically a couple days before the exam. So that gives you plenty of time to work on these. Again, do not procrastinate. Do not wait to the last minute. Once again, no matter what the reason is, technology reason, you waited too long, real reason, maybe not so real reason, they will not be extended for any reason. So work on them and you will not run into that problem. All right, so let's take a look back here. All right, so we have our homeworks. You will also find in these exam modules some review material. So there'll be some review topics of just, the stuff from that exam and from those chapters that you should know. You also have maybe some review worksheets / a little bit more information on some of the topics that we talk about. They're not due, for example, for points or anything like that, just some extra practice that you can do. Here's the next module for exam 2. Again, we have our lecture notes. We have our direct links to each of the chapter's homework assignments through OWL and Cengage, and our review material here for exam 2. We also have, again, our exam 3 module, lecture notes for each of the chapters, the PDFs of them. Again, individual links for our homework assignments, and again, some more review material. And lastly here for exam 4, lecture notes, individual homework assignments, and review materials. So as you can see, we have 4 exams throughout the semester on various chapters. So they definitely will cover more than one chapter. Most of them are like 3-4 chapters, and some are even 5 chapters. So each exam will cover a good number of chapters, a good number of material. That's also why, again, for the homework, you do not want to wait to the last minute. We will also have a final exam, which will cover all the chapters that we did throughout the semester as cumulative. And there will be one last little homework assignment here on chapter 17, which, thinking about it, is really the only chapter that we do not actually cover on an actual exam other than the final exam. Next will be our lab material here under this header. And here's a reminder of some of the different parts and stuff that you need to know for lab. Now, for lab, you do need, just so you know, you do have to have the printed on paper labs reports with you when you come to class, when you come to lab, basically. So that will consist of an introduction part to the lab. That will consist of the lab procedures. That will consist of the data pages you're going to fill out and the post-lab questions. It needs to be printed physically on paper. You cannot do it on your tablet. Can't do it on any electronic devices. Can't write it on a separate piece of paper. It does need to be printed. And then you need to have it there. We'll talk about 2 ways you could get that in just a second. In addition, for every experiment, and you'll see in the schedule, there's experiments and there's a few that are called activities, but only the experiments. The activities don't have pre-labs associated with them. But for each experiment, there's 2 different types of pre-labs. One pre-lab is a written pre-lab, and essentially what you'll do is you'll read the experiment in your own words, handwritten. You will write up the procedures, the experiments you're going to do, the equipment you're going to use, enough information that you could follow the experiment and the procedure that you wrote. So that could be complete sentences. It could be kind of incomplete sentences, if you will. They don't have to be perfect grammar and all that good stuff. It could be a flow chart. It could be pictures with some words. It can't just be straight pictures. Obviously, you got to have some words to go along with it, but it does need to be complete enough that it covers all the experiments or all the procedures for that particular experiment, enough that you could follow it. It has to be a minimum 1 page. It could be a little bit longer if you need, but it does need to cover all the parts of the experiment, and that will be uploaded typically the night before, or it's due, I say it that way, it's due the night before the actual experiments that you're going to do. So we typically do 2 labs for every lab period that we do. That means for the written pre-lab that I was just describing, which is again the summary of the procedures that you're going to do for that particular experiment for all parts of the experiment. That means that you will have 2 written pre-labs that needs to be uploaded to Canvas in the one that is labeled pre-lab written. And we'll take a look at one there. And there it is, written, pre-lab, post-lab. And again, here's basically in the actual assignment, it gives you all the information about what you need to do, and also that you do need to complete, in addition to the written summary, you need to complete our attempt, show all your work, set up units and all that for any post-lab questions that there are for that particular experiment. They will not be graded in terms of the pre-lab for correctness, the post-lab questions, but you are expected to attempt them all. You are expected to show your setup and your work. If you do not do that, you will lose some points. Again, not based on correct answer, but based on sort of the work and the setup and stuff like that. So if you set it up and work towards what looks like the correct sort of answer, or at least progressing correctly through the calculation, you probably get all the points, and the correctness of your answer will be graded as part of the lab report. By the way, to submit an assignment, you just hit the start assignment, it comes down here, you could upload your file, hit submit, and make sure that it is uploaded. A reminder that when you do upload assignments to Canvas, it is your responsibility to make sure that you did upload the correct PDF file. It does need to be a PDF file. You need to go back in and make sure that it is correct, it is complete, and it is what you want to upload. If you do not do that, you do not take the time to go back and make sure that you did upload the correct file, then you may not get the correct points for it, you may not get any points for it, or it may be considered late if it's still able to be accepted past the due date. So make sure that you do check whatever you upload. All right, so that is the written pre-lab. And if we come back and take a look, and let's talk about the other pre-lab that we will be doing as we come down here. The other pre-lab is the Cengage Lab Pre-Skills one, and that is one that you'll click a link that will take you to the Cengage site where you will look at your online homework. So for example, we come here, you will see a pre-lab that is mentioned, Experiment 2 Pre-Lab Online. If we click on that, again, if you click on the link, it will take you again to a pre-lab. Again, much like the OWL homework, this is what your second access codes for, your lab pre-skills, which is the pre-lab questions. Same idea. If you start that there, you'll have a bunch of questions. Obviously, some may be true and false. Some may be actual questions, homework type questions, or questions where it might be an answer. You get a lot of attempts at both of these things. You should be able to complete it correctly. Definitely the pre-lab ones. I will give you an idea that there are some pre-lab assignments, especially early on, where there may be more than one right answer on a particular question, kind of like mark all that applies type of thing. So sometimes people commonly kind of get that one wrong, even though they have some of the right answers, but they don't have all the right answers. So just be careful of that. I know a couple of the beginning ones, there are a few questions like that where, kind of mark all the right answers and stuff like that. So that is the 2 pre-lab assignments that you have to do for lab. One, a written one, summary and post-lab questions. And the second is pre-lab questions done through Cengage. Now, where can you find the experiments? Well, again, you do need to have them printed. They do need to be printed out on paper and brought to lab with you, the entire experiment. This right here, this module has all the PDF files for every experiment that we're going to do throughout the semester. So you could click on them and you could download them and open them. And if you do that, for example, it looks something like this. And most experiments will have this sort of format. There's an introduction. There's procedures for the different parts of the experiment. You want to make sure that you read through it. This is what you're going to be using to write your written pre-lab. Now, when you write your written pre-lab, it should be in your own words. It should not be an identical copy of this. It needs to be handwritten, and you need to use your own words. Or like I said, you could do like a flow chart, something like that. But you should not, academic dishonesty, you should not copy this word for word and turn it in. Otherwise, you will get a 0. You will not get points. And that is something that you should not do. So once again, in your own words, you need to write this enough that it's understandable, the physical procedures that you're going to be doing, but do not copy it word for word. Now, when you actually come and do the experiment, you'll have this entire lab printed out. In this case, all 8 pages should be printed out. This is the data table. So during the experiment, as you're physically doing the experiment, you should be filling in this information. So everywhere there is not a number on the left, so you'll see some of these numbers here. Anywhere where there is not a number on the left, that is a piece of information that you should fill in as a result of doing the experiment. So that's like a measurement that you should have. By the way, on these papers here, these dots that you see here, here, they're actually not decimal points, even though a lot of people use them as decimal points. You should not use them as decimal points. They're basically just telling you that there needs to be some type of entry in that spot. So they're not really decimal points, even though people use them. What do these numbers mean on the left? Good question. Glad you asked. The numbers on the left, this value here, where there's a number on the left, is a result of a calculation. So it is not a result of a direct measurement, but it's a result of a calculation of your measurements. So anywhere where there's not a number, that's a direct measurement. Anywhere where there is a number is a calculation. Why are there numbers? Well, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And as we come down here to our calculation boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 different boxes. Each box corresponds to a different calculation in this data table. And in these boxes, to get full credit, you need to show all your work, dimensional analysis, which we'll talk about, units, answers to the right significant figures. The correct calculation needs to be put in the correct box. You do not just put all the calculations in one box. So whatever 1 represents, that's the only calculations coming here. Actual numbers, units, setup, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. These are the post-lab questions, and really, by the time you come to lab, these questions should be done, because these are the questions that will be part of the pre-lab, the written pre-lab assignment that's due the day before you do the physical experiment. So where it says do your written pre-lab of your procedure and post-lab questions, these are the post-lab questions. So these questions here would need to be uploaded along with that written pre-lab of the procedure the day before you do this experiment. These questions need to be answered if they're calculations showing the same idea, the setup, the units, the dimensional analysis, and the answer box. So that's where you find the post-lab questions that you'll need for both the lab report and the pre-lab written assignment. Remember, for the pre-lab written assignment, to get full credit, you need to show all the work, the units, the setup. Once again, the correctness of your answer will not be taken into account for the pre-lab assignment, but it will be part of your lab report. So your lab report, when that experiment is done, typically they are due the day we do the experiment. So at the end of the lab period, you'll turn in the paper part of your lab report before you leave. Now, what are you going to turn in? Well, you're not going to turn in when you're ready to leave for that day at the end of the lab period. You are not going to turn in any of the introductory pages, any of the procedure pages. This is where really what you're going to turn in would start. I will need the page with the table, our tables. I'll need the pages with the calculation boxes filled in, and I will need your post-lab questions. So those three things, the data table, the calculations table, and the post-lab questions, will make up your lab report. And that lab report is worth 20 points. 20 points for your lab report that you turn in physically on paper. And those 20 points is a combination of accuracy, calculations, if there's any unknown, how close you were to the correct answer. All of that comes into play for those 20 points. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned before, you can find all the experiments in this module. You also can find weekly what we're doing in lab, and you'll also find the experiments there in lab. So here's activity 1, experiment 2, the 2 pre-labs, written pre-lab with the post-lab questions, online Cengage pre-lab, PDF file for experiment 3, written pre-lab for experiment 3, written our online pre-lab for experiment 3. And as you go through here every week, these are the experiments that we'll be doing. Also where we have no class, also because of a holiday, also approximately where the exams will be as well. You can also see, as I mentioned before, there are some activities here. Right around week 7, looks like we get into it. Week 7, week 8, we have activity 9, activity 10, activity 11. Activities do not have any pre-labs associated with them, so there will be no written pre-lab for activities. There'll be no Cengage pre-labs for activities. They're kind of like worksheets. They're not really physical experiments per se. You still need to show up and do them, but they're not really physical type of experiments. They're more like worksheets. Anything that's an experiment, labeled an experiment, will have 2 pre-labs for. So in terms of any experiment, since we typically will do 2 experiments a week, we have 2 written pre-labs for each, 1 for each experiment. We have 2 Cengage pre-labs, 1 for each experiment. So for every week that we do 2 labs, you have a grand total of 4 pre-labs, 2 written, 2 Cengage, that are due typically the night before the experiment. So the day or night before the experiment, that's when those guys are due. You can turn them in way before that, and I would recommend that as well. I would not, again, wait to the last minute to turn these things in, so you don't run into any problems. If you choose to wait to the last minute, you run into any type of problems, technical or otherwise, that's kind of on you. So don't wait to the last minute. That way, if something does happen, you have time to fix it before the due date and time. All right, so going through all these here, you'll see all the weeks and all the experiments. Now, in addition to obviously being able to find the labs here on our Canvas page, where you can basically print them out yourself, if you would not like to do that, you could buy a pre-printed lab manual from the bookstore. I think is about $20, which might be a good idea if you don't want to have to print everything yourself, or you don't have to worry about, did I forget to print it this week or not? You would have them all done for you in the pre-printed version from the bookstore. So 2 ways to get the lab manual. Experiments, either up here on Canvas, or you could just buy the pre-printed one. So those are some of the important parts. We got our announcements, our syllabus, our modules, where you find everything. Obviously, we have the grade book here. The grade book will not be updated daily. After we do a certain amount of stuff, there'll be some updates. It is not 100% accurate all the time. It should be used with a grain of salt, as the old saying is, just to give you sort of a relative idea of where you're at in the course. It's not going to give you perfect exact amount of times. It's just used as a courtesy to give you an idea of sort of how you're doing in the class. All right, I think that's good for our little Canvas overview here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon, I'm imagining, if you're watching this. Bye-bye.